What's up, ladies and gents? Welcome to Slurve. I am Steve, and I got some cash game cornerstones for your MLB DFS games. Today, June 8th, it's a Wednesday. We got a nice big slate going on, and unlike the last couple days, or at least unlike yesterday, we actually have some good options I can recommend playing cash tonight. There's a lot of pitching options. I'll leave that to Adam in his video. And get you right going with some hitters we can target. Well, first of all, actually some pitchers we can target with hitters. And we got three guys that I particularly like. Jared Weaver, Alfredo Simon, and Ricky Nolasco, all good targets to hit. And you'll see a number of my picks going against them. Including the first one, we got Brian McCann at what seems like a really cheap price to me versus Weaver. The Yankees have been doing much better lately. And Vegas has been all over them. Their run total is up again today. It was opened at like 5.1 or 5, and it's up to 5.4. Anyway, he's 3,600 on DK and 3,100 on FanDuel. Seems far too cheap to ignore to me in that kind of a matchup. But if you need some more savings, we also got Yadier Molina against Alfredo Simon, who somehow was almost decent in his last start, but he is not a good pitcher at all, and I love that ballpark in terms of giving up big hits and home runs. 3,100 on DK, 2,500 on FanDuel, kind of the lowest I feel comfortable going at catcher. First base is normally a position I don't struggle to find options at, but today it kind of was, at least for cash. There's plenty of guys to like for GPP, but in terms of cash, there's really only a few I like because the guys like Chris Davis just strike out way too often for cash, in my opinion. But we got Carlos Santana going up against Taijuan Walker, who has just been bad lately. I hope he kind of turns it around, but at the moment, we got to look at that. And he's cheap on DK, 3.6 there. He's also 3.6 on FanDuel. I'm not so excited about that, especially when we got Hosmer going up against Tillman. He's 4.8 on DK, which I'm not excited about, but he's 3.4 on FanDuel, which is much nicer, and I like it better than the Carlos Santana at 3.6. And then there's also Mitch Moreland going up against Doug Fister, who's not a guy that I want to stack against usually, but also not a guy that I want to avoid by any means. 3.5 on DK, and he's an outfielder on FanDuel, so forget it. If you've been playing DFS at all the last few days, I hope you've been playing Jurickson Profar, who has been really good since getting called up. He too gets Doug Fister in a high total game. His price has come up, and he's no longer shortstop eligible on DK, which is kind of sad, but he is second base on both sites now. So he is, again, like I said, against Fister. 4K on DK, 3.1 on FanDuel, just giving him away on FanDuel. Love that price there. You kind of got a bunch of kind of equal guys to choose from today, because we also got Scooter going up against Hahn, and Scooter is really good against righty Scooter Gennett. He's 4.0 on DK and 2.9 on FanDuel, so slight discount over Profar. I think Profar is probably the safer option to go with, but that Milwaukee game is not a bad thing to target either. And then I mentioned Ricky Nolasco. We got Derek Dietrich going up against him. 3.7 on DK, 2.9 on FanDuel. Hard to choose in amongst those options, honestly, but I think my first choice is probably Profar. At third base, you probably want to play Matt Carpenter. I forgot to write him down, actually, because he doesn't rate out particularly well in the model. But Alex Rodriguez has an insane BVP against Jared Weaver. However you feel about that, apply it your own way, but I think it's 11 for 29 with 5 home runs. So I don't know how much of a cash consideration it is, but it's definitely a consideration. However, if you've got the money, Matt Carpenter has been really pretty good this season. And he gets Alfredo Simon, 5.3 on DK. I think he's accurately priced there. He's 4.0 on FanDuel. I think that's too cheap. Love him on FanDuel. If you need some savings on DK, we got Martin Prado for you against Nolasco, which is another kind of BVP thing. But I mean, he grades out pretty well in general. And the Marlins are expected to have a pretty high run total. As I mentioned, Nolasco, not very good. 3.2 on DK, 2.9 on FanDuel. Probably not worth it on FanDuel, but DK, you know, if you need savings, you need savings. Eduardo Nunez, man, has he been fun lately. Double dong day yesterday, which you just don't see that often out of him or out of shortstops in general. And you know, he's more of a speed guy. I mean, he can steal 2 bases in a game, and here he is hitting 2 home runs. So the upside is really there with Nunez, and he gets Chen today, who's a mix of good and bad. You know, I'm looking into it a little more closely. 4.2 on DK, 3.5 on FanDuel. Really, really cheap there. If you need a cheap play on DK, I really like Espinosa going up against Shields. You know, I've called a bunch of Espinosa home runs lately, and this is not necessarily one of those calls. I haven't gone through all of that stuff yet. However, Shields gives up a lot of fly balls. Espinosa has been hitting it very hard. 3.2 on DK, 3.0 on FanDuel. FanDuel, I don't know that it's worth it, but on DK, if you need those savings, it's absolutely there. And going back to Mr. Alfredo Simon, we got Alaidmis, I'll never say his name right, Diaz there. 4.4 on DK is kind of meh. I'll take Nunez for a 200 less. But 3.4 on FanDuel is, I'll take Nunez for 100 more, probably, now that I look at it. But it's a really good price for him in what should be a high-scoring game. I've been touting Hyun-Soo Kim for a bit here, and he really hasn't disappointed. I mean, nothing huge, but nothing small either. You know, he's a singles machine. You know, not that likely to win you at GPP, but 3.5 on DK, 2.6 on FanDuel, just giving away there against Edinson Volquez, who I like to target, but I just don't really like him very much. And so, you know, so Kim is going to get you some points, and that's what we want in cash. We want that floor. And then we got Nomar Mazara going up against bad righty and Doug Fister, and Nomar Mazara crushes bad righties. 4.0 on DK, 3.2 on FanDuel. And speaking of crushing a specific handedness, we've got Enrique Hernandez, Kike, going up against Rusin, who's a lefty, and you might have heard that Kike crushes lefties. 3.2 on DK, 2.6 on FanDuel, maybe a bit more risk there. And make sure he's in the lineup. Yeah, he probably will be, but Dodgers are weird, and Van Slyke is back now. Ooh, Van Slyke, I got to think about him now. So yeah, that's definitely a play that I'm interested in. Although when you look at Kim at the same price on FanDuel, he's definitely a safer option, with Kike having a much higher ceiling. Then you got to look at Robbie Grossman too, because he's been really good lately. Home run yesterday. He and Nunez, I think, really combined to have a big day for Max. Congrats to my buddy Max on taking down a big night last night, and tonight it's going to be me, all right? So, yeah, 2.9 on DK is a great price for him. He's 2.9 on FanDuel, which I'm far less interested in when you got Kike and Kim cheaper. And then there's Adam Jones, who is always underpriced on FanDuel, in my opinion. 4.3 on DK is kind of reasonable, but I'm not super interested in that at that price. Rather go Mazara. And 3.3 on FanDuel, much more interesting. Although I'd probably rather still go Mazara. But no reason you can't play them both on FanDuel with those kind of prices. So that's the end of the cash game cornerstones for today. I've got a lot more research to do, and we've got an expert chat today at 5, so make sure you get on over to slurv.com, get signed up, and get ready for that expert chat, because it is fun. We come up with some great ideas, put together some great lineups, and it's a big help to my personal game. I like days with that. So slurv.com, I am Steve. This has been Cash Game Cornerstones. Come back for the expert chat, 5 p.m. We'll have it all for you. Thanks. Good luck.